out here in Glen, Montana this week I'm with my athletic program for a little bit of a retreat. But I thought I'd bring to you guys a little video on elevation training, because this week we're at a little over 5,000 feet in elevation, which, I mean, a lot of professional athletes that like train in Boulder and Mammoth Lakes, they're a little higher than that, like closer to 7,000. But still, this is a lot more than the 715 that I have at home. So I'll just be bringing to you guys like how I feel during while I'm running here at elevation, and probably a little bit I'll definitely do some research and just like kind of explain what altitude training does, the reasoning behind it, why so many people do it, just like kind of like the science behind it and how to do it right. So thanks for watching, y'all. Okay, we about 3 miles into my first run here at elevation, doing a nice little 5-miler, and I can feel it right in the breathing. Like, I'm just 740 pace, normal easy run for me. I'm just doing a little 5-miler and I'm out of breath, which normally never happens during an easy run. But it just goes to show why elevation training is honestly so key to these professional runners. So I mean, you're coming back down to sea level, you're a freaking boss. But unfortunately, I'm only here for 7 days, so that pretty much means I come here, suffer for 7 days, get to know what altitude feels like, and go home with no benefits. So you need to be here for 10 to 12 days to start getting any benefits. But in the meantime, man, I tell us to focus. It's beautiful around here. God's creation is so good.
So just got back from Montana, guys. It was a great experience in Montana. It was a athletic program leadership retreat, and I was able to experience God in some cool ways in my life. And the experience of altitude running was pretty fun. Definitely wasn't as bad as I expected. Going up and down hills got pretty gassed, but for the most part, if you're on a smooth road, the oxygen breathing wasn't too bad. But I can definitely see how it makes you better running training at altitude year round. Because these last few runs, even though I wasn't there long enough to get legitimate benefits, like these last few runs here at sea level where I live has been honestly pretty much easier. But we're gonna get into a little of the research I did on altitude training, and I'm gonna throw up some clips from our trip because Montana is way more beautiful than me. So here we go. So pretty much the difference at training at altitude is the fact that there's overall just a lesser amount of oxygen. When you're at sea level, your oxygen levels, in the air, the oxygen level is about 21%, and oxygen's heavier, so as you go up, the oxygen levels go down, and at about 8,000 feet, the oxygen levels are about 15% overall in the air. So that's kind of the main source where altitude training gets its benefits, but also there's definitely more hills when you're in the mountains, and hills create strength when you're running up them, so that would also be another benefit to training altitude. But for the most part, how your body becomes more efficient is all through its processes and using of oxygen. Okay, so this exposure to reduced oxygen is called hypoxia, and in this state of hypoxia, your body is required to produce energy with lesser amounts of oxygen. So you're producing the same amount of energy as you would at sea level when you're running, but you have less oxygen to do that. So your body has to become more efficient in how it uses oxygen. And there's kind of 4 things that your body does in order to become more efficient. The first is amplified pulmonary oxygen absorption, or increasing your VO2 max. So your VO2 max is essentially an overall measure of how efficient your body is with oxygen. And you can definitely increase it when you're at altitude, but it's not a very dramatic increase, but it's an increase nonetheless, which, I mean, when you're a professional runner or any other runner, you always want to increase things. I mean, increase your abilities. So that's just another little thing that they do that altitude helps with. But kind of the big main benefit you get from altitude training is with your red blood cells. So what happens is, to compensate for the decreased oxygen in your air, this decreased oxygen triggers a hormone in your body called EPO. It has some long scientific name I'm not going to try to pronounce. EPO is actually kind of familiar because lots of the blood doping scandals with cyclists, I guess, bicyclists, I don't know what I'm saying, but that's kind of like they use the hormone EPO to trigger their bodies to create more red blood cells, because your body naturally triggers this hormone of EPO, and this makes your body to create more red blood cells. And red blood cells are the main thing that deliver oxygen to your cells. So this allows your body to use oxygen more efficiently, especially when you get to lower levels, and like you're just, because if you're going from high altitude to low altitude, it's like you're flooding your body with oxygen, and you have these red blood cells, so you're just getting oxygen in your muscles like this, and it increases the time to fatigue for your muscles. So the third benefit that kind of increase or goes right in with the EPO red blood cell things is increased capillarization. So your muscles, all your muscles are surrounded by capillaries. I'm bad at English, as you can see. And so another one of the benefits is your body increases the amount of capillaries around a muscle, and this allows for more oxygen to flow through the muscles. So like these red blood cells are just flooding the oxygen to the muscles, and then it also has more pathways to get the oxygen into the muscles than it did before. And then the fourth and final benefit is enhanced production and rejuvenation of mitochondria. Mitochondria, everyone knows they're the powerhouse of the cell, and it's what supplies your muscles with energy. How you build mitochondria. Building mitochondria is a main part of all distance running. But kind of what happens is when we do long runs and endurance workouts, we increase the total number of mitochondria in our bodies. And so when you take this to altitude, your body creates even more mitochondria, because you essentially need to produce the same amount of energy due to the lack of oxygen. And since there's a lack of oxygen, your body needs more of these mitochondria in order to keep producing the energy needed. And so like pretty much when you come back down to sea level and race, you got higher red blood cells, you got increased capillarization. So you got red blood cells to flood your muscles with oxygen, and there's more ways for oxygen to get into the muscle. And then also you have more mitochondria, which just makes you run way more efficiently. And so the effects of training altitude last about 10 to 20 days after you get back down to sea level. And usually, from what I've read, the recommended training distance at altitude is 3 to 6 weeks. I was only there for 7 days, so I didn't really have any benefits. But my rate of perceived effort has kind of like that's kind of the benefit I got, because I was only there for 7 days. But yeah, for the most part, if the rule of thumb, if you want to get any benefits from oxygen or from altitude training, you have to be there about at least 10 to 12 days. And it was a great experience to live in the mountains for a week and run in the mountains. I definitely know that at some point in my life I'm going to train in the mountains. But see, especially with this effect of 10 to 12 days, that's the effects only last 10 to 12 days after leaving elevation. That's kind of why it's you see people go and train all summer altitude, and they're like, oh, training in the off season for altitude. It's all right, sure, that'll help you with your first race, but for the most part, spending a summer altitude will not help your cross country season as a whole. It'll help your first race. So that's why the pros, their schedules are more flexible, so they can they train at altitude for weeks on weeks, and then they come down for one race and then go back up. So that's kind of how you have to do it if you really want to see the benefits of high altitude training in all your races. All right, so that's going to wrap up this video. Thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe. I am actually, a little teaser, I am heading next week to California for the Prefontaine Classic to help as a volunteer, so we'll be bringing you guys some videos from that. It's going to be friggin' lit out there, so stay cool, keep running, and peace out, y'all.